Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So today's topic is loops. So the block of statement used to perform repeated number of tasks. If we want to perform some specific task in a repeated manner, we use loops in C++. For example, there are three types of loops: for loop, while loop, or do while loop. For loop. So we will learn the syntax of writing of for loops. For initialization, condition, and then updation, and then we will write the loop body. We will understand this syntax from the example. For example, include IOStream using namespace standard int main, the same standard procedure, and then we will write the for loop. For int I is equal to 0 is the initialization, and it will be the constant, you cannot change it. This is the initialization, and this is the condition, and this is the updation of that loop. See out I. So what does it mean? First of all, this program will read int I is equal to 0. Okay, int I is equal to 0, and it will check whether I is less than 4. If it is less than 4, the condition is satisfied, it will print 0 on the output screen. Then it will add 1 plus plus, one more thing in that 0, it will become 1. So if 1 is less than 4, then it will write that program, that digit there. And then it will read it. It will add one more to the I, and it will become 2. And if 2 is less than 4, it will print that. It will add one more to the 2, and it will become 3. If 3 is less than 4, it will print that. But if then adding more values, it will become 4 less than 4. That condition does not hold to be true, and that program will be stopped. So if we need to write multiple numbers or multiple things, or if we want to perform some repeated number of tasks, then we write loops. There is another method. I can write cout1, cout2, cout3. That will be much more hectic. If I want to write numbers from 0 to 50, I will be using loops. I will be giving it the condition, okay, you need to stop before that particular number. So I would that program or that task would be much more convenient for me. For that repeated number of the task, for repeated number of increments or decrements, we use loops in C++ program. So you can pause this video here, and then you can put that syntax in your dev C++, and then you can compile and run and check what happens when you write this program. So while loop. While loop is while, we write while, then condition, and then we write statements. For example, printing number from 1 to 50 using while loop, using standard procedure. Int I is equal to 1. We are assigning integer I value 1. And while I should be less than equal to 50, cout print I. I have already told you that whatever you write in these symbols, without those symbols, without the parenthesis or without those colon symbols, semicolon symbols, it will print that variable, not the text. So here it will print the value of I, not I. Understand this point, that it will only write it will only display the value of I. Okay, and then it will read I plus plus. First it will write I1, and then it will check the condition. If it's satisfied, then it will print it. Then it will read I plus plus, it will become 2, and then it will again print I. If 2 is less than 50, it will print I. If it will add one more value to the 2, it will become 3. If 3 is less than 50, it will print that value. And this term and L means for each line, it will end that value and go to the next line. Okay, so it will add values up till it reaches 49, and then it will stop that program. So now here you will write the numbers from 1 to 49 here in this program, not 50, sorry. So you can just pause this video here, put that program in your dev C++, read the output screen and try to relate it with the input. That will be very much convenient for you to understand the basics of the C++. So in finite while loop, if the condition holds to be true forever, the loop will never stop. But don't try to make this kind of loop, because it will consume a lot of memory of your computer. So if I is equal to 1, while true is true. While true means the condition is true every time. Cout I, print I till the increments it reaches to the infinity. So here it will continue to add values 1 to the I. So this will be the infinite while loop. So what is do while loop? Do, then statements, then while condition. For example, C++ program to program numbers from 1 to 5 using the standard procedure int I is equal to 1. You will write do, then you will program, then you will start the curly brackets, and then you will write C out I, and then you will I plus plus for while I should be less than equal to 5. Here just the different way to write a loop, and this is like another way of writing a repeated number of the task. You can use repeated number, you can write different programs by using different kind of loops as per your understanding or as per your convenience. So you can just copy paste this program to your dev C++, check the output, and then compare it with your input. So it's your practice. Print a table of any integer using any loop. So this is a quiz for you, and if you learned the things which I have already taught you in my previous lecture, then you can write this thing in your dev C++. Try to print a table of any integer using any loop. For example, if the program takes the value from the user and prints its table. Pause this video here, try to write that table in your dev C++. Okay, so solution is that using right standard, this one int n, enter a positive integer, C input n. Like for int I is equal to 1, we have initialized I should be less than equal to 10, I plus plus plus. I want some integer who will get multiplied by 1 to 10, and then it shows the multiplication on the output screen. So what I will do is, it will print the number inside these in these things, in this symbol, but it will write the value of these things which are written without these symbols. So it will n multiply by I is equal to n multiply by I, and it will print that, and L, then it will perform the second function up till it reaches 10, and then it will terminate. So you can just pause this video here, copy paste that program to dev C++, and then you can check and compare with the input. Okay, so the next thing is, topic is types of functions. We have already studied about the functions in detail in our previous lecture. So there are two types of functions: standard library functions predefined in C++, user defined functions created by users. So there are standard library functions, and there are certain types of functions which you can perform, which you can create by yourself. So user-defined function, C++ allows the programmer to define their own function for their own convenience. Okay, so user-defined function groups code to perform a specific task, and the group of code is given a name identifier. So C++ function declaration, the syntax to declare a function is return type, function name, parameter 1, 2. We have already discussed this thing in detail. So here is an example of function declaration, and you can read it by yourself. This is very simple. We have already discussed it a lot of time. So benefits of using user-defined functions. Functions make the code reusable. We can declare them once and use them multiple times. Functions make the program easier to each small task is divided into functions. Functions increase readability. It is easy to divide your program into certain specific tasks, small parts, small set of blocks, which is called functions for your convenience. C++ library functions are built-in function in C++ programming. Programmers can use library functions by invoking the functions directly. They don't need to write the functions themselves. Some common library functions in C++ are square root, ABS, etc. In order to use library function, we usually need to include a header file in which these library functions are defined. For instance, in order to use mathematical functions such as sqrt and ABS, we need to include the header file cmath. So here it is very important to know that if we are going to some specific library functions, we need to assign the header file to that program, that okay, we are going to direct you toward that standard storage, and I'm going to pick one function from that storage. Okay, I'm going to this way, and in this way I'm going to open that drawer of mathematical functions. I'm going to put square root function, and I'm going to drop it into my program. So this is why we use that header file. So we understand how this syntax works, how the hierarchy works, and in this way we can easily understand our program. For example, we need to find a square root of a number. we use standard these include iostream, hashtag include iostream, hashtag include cmath. So it's not just input output stream, we are going to use some mathematical function from the storage behind. So that's why we put hashtag include cmath. So using namespace standard int main, double number and square root, we define these two variables. C out, please enter a number to find a square root. C in is number, square root is equal to square root of that number. Square root is equal to, we using this square root, assigning the value it to the square root of that particular number. So the square root of the number is equal to square root. Okay, so here it will perform the square root function here. Pause this video here, copy paste this program to your dev C++ and write any number there, and then it will give you the square root of that number automatically. In this program, the square root libraries function is used to calculate the square root of a number. The function declaration of square root is defined in the cmath header file. That's why we need to use the code hashtag include cmath. Now we are going to study arrays. In C++, an array is a variable that can store multiple values of the same type. Suppose a class has 27 students and we need to store the grades of all of them. Instead of creating 27 separate variables, we can simply create an array. We are going to assign grades of 27 students. Instead of assigning individually 27 students to, instead of assigning individually grades to 27 students, we use arrays. Here, grade is an array that can hold a maximum of 27 elements of double type. Double, grade and 27. In C++, the size and type of arrays cannot be changed after its declaration. So how we declare an array? For example, first we need to type the data type, array name, and in the bracket, this bracket, it will display the array size. For example, if int x is int x6, here int is the type of the element to be stored, x is the name of the array, and 6 is the size of the array. 6 means it can contain 6 values. It has 6 empty slots. We can assign particular values to that slot so that they can occupy those empty slots and take the values of the particular slots. Accessing the elements in C++ array. In C++, each element is an array is associated with a number. The number is known as an array index. We can access elements of an array by using those indices. For example, if the array size is 5, how it will be displayed? The array members would be x0, x1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and array indices will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? So the array indices start with 0, meaning x0 is the first element stored at index 0. If the size of an array is n, the last element is stored at index is n minus 1. Okay? In this example, x5 is the last element. So the array starts with 0. It starts with the slot 0. For example, at x0 it will have this slot and the index will be 0. At this x1, this is the array member, this is the empty slot, and the index will be 1. So we will be calling different slots by the array indices. Okay. So the array initialization, what does it mean? So here we have studied that if the array size is 6, it always starts from 0. So if array size is 100, what would be the 99 slot? It will start from 0, so the 99 index will be the last index. That's why it is choosing here to, it is stated here to write n minus 1. So the index will be always n minus 1 because it starts from 0, indicates the empty slots of that array. So in C++, it is possible to initialize an array during declaration. For example, int x6. So we are going to assigning the type of array is int and x is the name and 6 is the size. So int x, here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 5 elements, we have 6 empty slots and 6 numbers. So here we can understand that 6 empty slots are occupied by 19, 10, 8, 17, 9 and then 15. And these are x0, x1, x2 are the array members, and the index will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So these are just, the indices are just trying to indicate the empty slot, and then if the empty slot is occupied, they are trying to direct towards the number occupied that empty slot. Okay. So array with empty members. If C++, if an array has size n, we can store up to n number of elements in the array. However, that will happen if we store less than n number of elements. For example, if the size is 6 and it's 19, 10, 8, we assume that the remaining 3 empty slots are 0. They have 0 value. So exercise displaying an array elements, we use standard syntax int main. Int is the type of the array, numbers is the name of the array, and 5 is the size, and we have assigned these values. So we are just trying to display the array elements. So see out the numbers are for int I is equal to 0, I should be less than 5, I plus plus. So here see out print the numbers of the array here, numbers I. So just pause it, copy paste this syntax, that code, and then paste it into the dev C++ and try to understand the output from the input. So take input from the user and store them in an array. You can simply pause it and paste it into your dev C++ and understand this program hierarchy. You can pause it and copy paste it to your system, and then you can understand it. In the same way, calculate the average of numbers using arrays. You can copy paste that code to your dev C++ and understand the hierarchy before it. So this was the basics introduction to C++ programming course, and I have tried to explain every minor detail to you. So this course was basically designed for the civil engineers who are studying the basics of C++ programming. So it was good time spending with you guys. I hope you understand, and I hope you learned something from this course. And if you really achieve something, if you really grab some concepts of introduction to C++ programming, and if it really helped you, then do subscribe to the channel for the upcoming videos, like it and share it with your friends who need it. I really do appreciate that. So best of luck, and keep visiting for the upcoming civil engineering concepts. Take care. Bye bye.